I'll just edit. So, so where were we before we were
Where
so
were we?
pleasantly interrupted?
So, yeah, this piece is to the brass quintet.
That's right.
It's called Ricochet. The music's called Ricochet. And what I found really interesting about this one was particularly the contrast between what we sort of imagine ballet and point shoe dancing is, which is so typically associated with like Tchaikovsky music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's usually strings. Even a lot of the Stravinsky stuff, while it has brass in it, is often strings. And that just is sort of the dynamic that ballet tends to go. And so this brass quintet, I was just very excited to experiment with how we could do point shoe work with a tuba.
Yeah. So, like, is it Tijuana brass, or what kind of brass are we looking at?
No, without saying too much, it's
okay.
It's almost like it almost has like a John Williams Star Wars vibe.
Oh, nice.
I mean, for me, it reminds me of Stravinsky brass sections myself.
Actually, it
But,
kind of
yeah.
So that was kind of interesting, but for this program, for Next Step, sometimes you have to put aside the choreographer ego, because the purpose of this is actually like you're working with students.
Okay.
And so it's not necessarily about making the best piece, it's a place to experiment with choreography in order to, one, learn what you can do yourself, but also how you can teach the most that you can to the students that you have. It's one of, for the students, it's one of their first steps into like a professional creative process. Just like you were talking about how being in a room with choreographers, this sort of like hidden thing, they don't actually get that experience until this program.
Oh.
And so this is their first experience with it. Yeah.
Nice.
So a lot of it is just sort of introductions into this is what you're free to do, this is what I'd like you to feel free to experiment with, this is what you can't experiment with, this is how you learn how to be together in a group. This is, like just the technical aspects of dancing together on stage. And so a lot of Next Step is really trying to cater to educating this next generation of dancers.
So, because of that, because of the fact that they're students, do you feel that there are things, moves, transitions, steps that you may have wanted to do, but you didn't want to put them in a difficult situation right off the bat, so you pull back, or what do you do?
What I would like to do is generalize a little bit more. No matter who you're choreographing on, just like a painter using paint and a paintbrush, you're limited by you use the medium you have. Like if I have watercolors on that, I will make a watercolor. If I have oil paint, I will make a classical portrait.
Now you're speaking my language.
I'm trying to get there. So while if I had made this piece on potentially more professional dancers, it would look different. That's not really the point. I made it for them, and it is theirs.
Well, just wondering if, how does it affect your vision? How does it affect the process? And actually, I really do want to get to the process.
Yeah.
So
let's
go ahead. Let's go ahead and let's start at the start of how Miles Pertl creates, or maybe, and it could be a fictional one. It doesn't have to be this one specifically. But do you start with? You said you started with the music.
I started with the music, and the next step is a conversation with my sister. Start with the music for sure. I can't say that my process is particularly unique in the dance world. I have an image of what I want generally to see in my head. I have a general idea of the sections and how they will progress through the piece, and generally place to start and a place to end. I think that's pretty important.
Nice.
And the journey is just that. It's going to be a journey, and it will evolve in the process no matter how much I try to visualize what's going to happen. It's going to be its own thing by the end.
And that's the same for any choreographer.
Other choreographers come in with 10 minutes of choreography already made, or they have already written a paper on their subject, or they haven't picked the music yet, and they're going to choreograph and then just, that's the music that goes to this. All valid, all good ways to do it. That's just not how I do it. So I like to, particularly with this one, I didn't know who I was going to have, so I had to, before I even gave them choreography, I gave them ballet class. Because I wanted to see what they could do.
Right, exactly.
That's like step one.
Yeah.
I need to know what they can do and how they can do it. And how they communicate also, because they're humans. This is the very unique thing about dance is the medium that choreographers work with is a human with a brain. And you can't treat them like shit. Absolutely not.
And I think that might be, although many choreographers are dancers, probably one of the best things about that is that it gives you a sense of them as humans. And when you get in there, you're already thinking of them as humans and not means to an end. A means to an end.
You might have to edit out this.
I'm guessing that means there have been times, and I'm sure that for every dancer. And every artist, in fact, there are times when we experience that, And so it's good to have, I've always thought, so one of the things that, and not to talk about myself too much, I'll do it really fast.
You can talk about yourself.
One of the reasons I love to interview people and to write about art especially, is that I'm an artist. So I see it from a different point of view. I understand the processes in a different way than somebody who has never worked with the materials, never created a performance, or never created a sculpture, or whatever. And it is a wonderful difference that you bring to it that allows you to a sort of empathy, but like almost some professional empathy. Like empathy, but as knowledge, that you come in there and you know how the other person feels when they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's
a good way to put it. Honestly, that is what I try to make one of like my cornerstone foundational things in my process is knowing where someone is, knowing like what they can do. Because if I know what they can do or what they think they can do, then I can either push them further, or I can highlight what they feel good at, or I can challenge them. But if you don't really know who they are and what they like or where they're at, you can really go down a bad path quickly.
So let's think of somebody like Bob Fosse. I know that's modern dance or whatever.
A little jazz, yeah.
Jazz, but he took every dancer and we're gonna hold on for a split second. I told you this is outside.
Downtown Seattle.
And they all look like they're in a Fosse dance.
Yeah.
They're all doing his vision and his vision alone.
Yes.
Whereas it sounds to me, and especially since you've been working so long with with another person, and not saying that it's not your vision, but that it allows you to realize, like other people.
I appreciate that.
I
think Fosse is a pretty good example of how things have worked in the past. Fosse, Balanchine, Robbins. I wasn't alive there. I did not work with them personally, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But generally, they had thousands of dancers who were auditioning for them.
Yeah.
And they got to be like, you, and you. You are doing exactly what I want. And then we're going to put that on film. We're going to put that on stage.
Right.
And that's how they got their exact vision they wanted.
So, you were saying that some choreographers come in with a script, some choreographers come in with a body of dance, or
they already built the outline.
Built the outline. What did you come in on the first day second day after you've seen them dancing and you've seen what they can do? Did you spend the night doing sketches, or like racking your brain, or what is it?
No, there was certain steps that I was like, this person can do anything that I ask of them in this general genre of steps. And so then I started placing people to different sections of the music, sort of. I didn't do it how I normally do it. Normally I come up with a bunch of phrases and then I kind of slot them in, but this I actually built linearly.
And would you describe to me what you mean by a phrase?
8 counts of movement, 16 counts of movement, 8 eighths of movement, it could be anything. Just a section of choreography. But this one I built linearly because it just felt like the most efficient way to get this done. This next step, one of the other incredibly limiting factors is the amount of time we have.
I was going to ask about that, actually.
We get 30 hours total, and that doesn't mean we have 30 hours with each of our dancers, we just have 30 hours. So like half of my rehearsals you're missing 2 or 3 of my 7 dancers, and so you're constantly being like trying to clean and choreograph stuff with the people you have, and you don't have a lot of time to go back to teach other people. So when I said I built this one linearly, it was because I had these people this day, and so we did this. We had this people this day, and we're going to continue on. And so
how many pieces is it?
In the program, there's...
how many parts to...
There's one song.
To Ricochet. It's
there's
one
song, but there's 4 distinct sections for me.
So do you ever think of your music, your choreography in a narrative sense, or do you think of it more as an abstract thing? Is it a reaction to the materials, like more like Merce Cunningham you were saying, or Robert Rauschenberg? Actually, sorry, this is pre-conversations. I apologize. So I will actually have to ask them about. I'll have to ask them in front of you guys. So, are there any inspirations for the dance that you're talking about?
Yes.
And where does it?
Yes. Sid, do you want to answer this one first, just because I've been talking for...
No. I think, because what I do is based off of what you've done.
Okay, I'll go first. So, kind of going back to that very first class that I gave them, I was kind of looking around the room, and what I saw was at least four very distinct technical schools of dancers.
Yeah.
We had some balancing dancers for sure. We had some American, more competition-y dancers that have their own...
more athletic kind of?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
And a lot of people say competition dancers with like a negative connotation. I do not mean that. They are fierce dancers. They're absolutely fierce dancers. There's just a little bit, probably, I had to generalize, there's just a little bit less affectation with the, like, you know...
They're not keeping a smile the whole
they are, but yeah. There's definitely some Russian dancers. Anyways. So what I was really interested in was kind of looking at their pathways, and it reminded me what my pathway was. Because I was an Irish dancer, and then my very first class was with a New York City ballet principal, Stephanie Saland, who lives
She's really cool.
In the area.
Over there.
In the area. And then Deborah Hadley, who was P&B's first prima ballerina, gave me private classes. She just passed away. But her classes are literally the most influential things I've had in my entire career. And so I really just felt like I needed to share this wealth of knowledge that I have, because I will not always be in the dance world. I will not always be a dancer. I will not always be in the front of the room. And so these 11 dancers who I had right here, right now, they are going to be the beneficiaries of my 25 years of work. And so we literally just talked through
just that empathy ballet. We were talking about.
We spent the time to talk about what they love to see in dancers and what I think is really important when I watch dance. And we really just tried to clarify that from the beginning so that we didn't have to go back to that. They knew exactly what I was trying to go for from the beginning. Which I think generally worked out.
again, this is the first time he's actually choreographed this specific way.
Yes.
So it's always a new process.
What are you normally used to? What kind of work are you usually used to? And then we've got to talk about your influences.
Right. Oh, right. The influences of the piece. So wait, influences of the piece first, because I didn't actually finish that. So for this piece in particular...
finish what you want to finish. We have...
Okay. For this piece in particular, what was interesting was we had all those 4 schools of thought. So there's some very serious references for people who have gone to the ballet for a long time. They'll see some Robbins. They will definitely see some Balanchine. They will definitely... Maybe they won't realize it, but they should. It is there, and I put it there for them.
Nice.
And
what do they call those? Easter eggs.
Well, it's
balletic,
it's built
hidden
in,
Mickeys.
And in that way, for this piece, it really felt important to. It's a call out to the past. It's what ballet has been, specifically. Probably starting with Balanchine American ballet for this piece. I didn't get too much into
Russian.
I mean, that's actually what I love, so I just skipped that.
That's the school that he's from.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a Russian trained dancer through and through.
Nice.
So, but we have Balanchine, Robbins, Cunningham, and it just felt like this is where dance has been. And then the way that I'm teaching it is where I feel like dance is now, because that's where I am. And what was really beautiful is watching these students who are in the process of getting jobs, being hired, looking for jobs, finishing up the last year of school. That's where dance is going. So it felt like, maybe it's too far out there, but it just felt like there was a nice tie between American dance history and American dance future.
Nice. Very nice. So yes, let's talk a little bit about some of the influences that we were talking about earlier, and how, like, and I have to tell you, I love Merce Cunningham and John Cage and Rauschenberg,
How can you not?
They were my first gods, Marcel Duchamp and all of that. That entire school, Black Mountain and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah. Tell me how that works, and how that finds itself in the work, especially in a piece that is looking back, perhaps a little bit further back than that era that they tend to be known for.
I will say that I did not put a lot of Merce Cunningham steps into it, so you probably won't see that.
Okay.
But it is definitely throwing back to that era of dance, and especially in process, I would say the most.
And
then I hear something in the costuming, maybe a little bit too.
Yeah, go for it, Sid. Sydney did the costume design for Ricochet, among other things. Costume and set design.
Yeah. So, as Miles said, we talk a lot back and forth, during this whole process. So when he got asked, or when he,
I applied and got accepted.
When he got chosen to do...
That's the secret. We never tell anybody. It's always you accepted it. We don't tell them how we got it.
Right. Oops, sorry.
We sang a good song.
So as soon as he knew that he was going to be choreographing for this program, we've been talking a lot back and forth. And so when he chose the song Ricochet, we talked a lot about what it reminded us of, dance-wise, art-wise, like even just like how those sounds would translate into like colors, movements, moods. And I think that one of the things that I landed on personally is this use of like primary colors. And if anybody out there knows my art, the primary colors are like not my thing. I that is not particularly what I like, but what it reminded me of is this very specific moment in history. I mean, the music reminded me of this very specific moment in history where, very specifically costume-wise, Rauschenberg was making waves with what he was doing with Merce Cunningham and John Cage.
Right.
And one of the things that was so beautiful about that era of dance, and Rauschenberg's costume design, was his use of movement of materials within dance, and how that ended up amplifying and pushing forward, the timeline of the history of dance. Like, he has these costumes that are, there are like dot costumes, there are paint streak costumes, there are costumes that he made where they're like giant fan built out structures. There are the ones that he made with Cunningham that are
on roller skates, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. The ones that are like mechanically moving, where you have a waistband and things like that, which are attached to other dancers to connect them and push and pull and move the piece forward. And I was thinking a lot, specifically when I heard the music, of Primary Colors. The music reminds me of very bold Primary Colors, and specifically Rauschenberg's costume design. So
nice.
I was thinking about how can you take that, pay tribute to it, and move it forward.
Right.
And so one of the things that we've been pushing around since the fall is this idea of like how to incorporate those into a piece and how to show movement in our costume design.
Nice.
And so one of the things that I ended up landing on was building a giant spirograph pendulum painting rig.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we were out in an alley in Georgetown with 2 ladders, a board, and condiment bottles, doing these spirographs for the tutus in Primary Colors, plus purple, because we needed plus purple. First of all, it's my favorite. Second of all, there are 4 female dancers in tutus. So
that reminds me of the surrealists who would say that you were allowed 2 changes or 2 or 3 changes to anything to make it right. Like you had the rules, and then you had 2 or 3 changes to sort of fudge them.
I like that.
So you put the purple in.
Exactly. So we really had a blast combining for the tutus. We had a blast combining these colors, one to the next, to the next, to the next. So red and purple, purple and blue, blue and yellow.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and so we spent
days.
Days.
Right.
Full days, huge full days, trying to make sure our paint composition was correct, trying to make sure that it would bend with the fabric, trying to make sure that it would last longer than a dress rehearsal performance.
Yeah, that's the problem with
trying to make sure
costumes.
Exactly, trying to make sure it would flow, and not create dot paintings, because we wanted to pay tribute to, not copy, the Rauschenberg costumes. And so it was definitely a process. We had an absolute blast doing it. We met a lot of cool artists who were walking around who saw our spirograph rig and were like, "What are you doing?"
You gotta love Georgetown, because that's the only place where that happens.
That's awesome.
Come visit our workshop that's right here around the corner, and it's an incredible art workshop.
Yeah.
So Sorry.
It was great.
Sorry.
So let's take a moment to talk about stagecraft.
Okay.
And specifically 2 things. How do the movements in the practice room, or I don't know what you would call that, studio, how that transfers to the stage, and lighting, everything? How do you decide on all of that stuff?
A lot of conversations for the lighting.
Nice.
We actually just did the lighting yesterday.
Holy cow!
Yeah, we were given 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
But there is a whiz at PMB.
There is a whiz.
His name is Reed Nakayama. He's freaking awesome.
Yeah,
he is so cool, and he can do anything.
Okay.
So it's like, this
You
is
were in
what
good
we
hands.
want.
Yes.
This is what we want. And he's like, I got you. We've worked with him before, so.
And it helped that we already had our color palette
Exactly.
Right.
pretty well.
So the whole
established
background
at
is
this
all
point.
purple then.
Yeah.
Well, for part of it.
In terms of how it gets translated from a studio onto a stage, I can tell you generally what that is. For this piece, it's a little different just because I haven't actually seen it performed yet. It's tomorrow.
Oh my God! You and I are going to be singing at the same time?
I mean, I saw a dress rehearsal today, but it was definitely a dress rehearsal. And it had that vibe to it, in the best of ways.
That's amazing.
That's the dancers' time to figure out what they need to do and how they need to do it. It's actually not that difficult to do a run in a studio and then do it on stage. It's actually not all that different for the most part.
But I mean, like, there's the wings, and then there's like, I mean, like, if you do any sort of, playing with the stage.
Yes.
You almost really do need some practice on the stage, though, don't you?
Yes, but these dancers they're very smart. They are very smart. That was not the thing that, at least for this piece, that was a problem. There's been other pieces that we've made that have required a lot more work. This one is generally trying to bring back dance to some fundamentals, just like the primary colors. We're doing classical ballet. We're doing primary colors. We're not doing
with a postmodern twist, right?
Exactly.
But there's no props. There's no crazy lighting. There's no. It's
everything that the dancers are bringing to the stage, combined with that music, the lighting, and the dance. I mean, I was lucky enough to sit in on rehearsals and dress rehearsals, and the dancers make really smart decisions, about their performance and how they're going to make it happen and make it work. So it was wonderful to be able to see the dress rehearsal because they're out there, shining. They're just wonderful.
That's the most amazing thing about when you have a bunch of people who are working together who all care about what you're doing. Everybody's like putting their best foot forward.
I can't say how thankful I am for these dancers.
Yeah.
They care so much. I went in to go just say hi before the rehearsal, and they were watching a video that they did yesterday and like analyzing every second of it. One of them came up to apologize to me because they hopped in rehearsal. They did an extra little hop, and I was like,
and if you're watching this, it's still not a problem.
It's still not a problem. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. But
awesome.
They are so invested into every piece that they're in.
I think there should be more hopping in modern ballet.
Yeah,
always
right?
more hopping.
But I mean, also it's the other people who brought it to the stage too, right? The costume shop, the PMB costume shop is incredible. Melita, Olivia.
And the backstage crew.
Yeah.
And Hannah and Pat.
Yeah. Everybody has just befinitely amazing.
Well, we'll get these shout outs in.
Get all the shout outs you want. This is your floor. You can shout
out to the costume shop.
Definitely shout out to the costume shop.
But I wanted to ask you something, and you can add more shout outs in a minute.
All right. Good night, gents.
For each of you, your most magic moment of this entire process.
Right there.
So far, I mean, because it could be that the actual performance is the most magic moment.
Do you want me to answer while you're thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my most magic moment is seeing everybody up on stage in their costumes. Like, it was incredible. I was so happy to see it. I had seen them, as solid sheets of fabric. I saw them while the costume shop was doing the tutus. I saw them when they were putting the final finishing touches on them. I saw the fitting photos, all of that. But seeing it up on stage was a whole different thing. And seeing those dancers who we specifically paired with those costume colors bring the costumes to life themselves was just incredible. And it really made me happy afterward the dress rehearsal. They were all like, "We love your costumes." I was like, "I love you guys." You guys make the costumes. So
how big is your core?
I have 7 dancers.
Nice.
And I have 7 dancers on stage, and I had 4 second cast dancers who are also incredible, and I wish I could get them on stage. But there's only one show, so.
Yeah, and you don't want anything to happen to allow them to be on stage.
They would be fine if they had to. They would be fine. They're very, very good dancers. I think I'm going to reserve the most magical moment because I think it's going to be tomorrow. I think I think it's going to be when the curtain comes down and I get to talk to all the dancers afterwards. I think that's going to be the closing finale for me.
What would you say to anybody who is out there 6 years or 11 years old or whatever, I don't know if I have any 6 years old people in my audience,
Your viewership.
but who are thinking, gosh, I would love to think about being part of the ballet, but I wouldn't even know how to start. Like, what would you tell them? Give us some inspiration.
The only thing you can do is go take a class and see if you like it. I mean, there's no harm in taking a ballet class or an art class or
there's
literally anything. Take classes.
6, 11, 60, 80. I mean, you're never too old to practice art,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really amazing people out there who are happy to share their art form with you, So I don't know.
That's all I can say, because I don't know what you want to do or where you want to go,
but
go
you can
find
do
out.
it. You can do it. We have faith in you.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, thank you.
I enjoyed this so immensely, and I can't wait till tomorrow and actually
Yeah.
see the performance.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Come on out,
Xavier.
McCaw Hall, P&B.